well, even if
Man, shoutcasting this has to be an absolute blast.
Amazon
He's holding
doesn't
left
get
mouse
Lord
button
of the
right
Rings
now.
right out
Oh
the
my
gate,
god,
they're
big
not gonna
dodge
give
on the
up
step
on it
back
because
right
they
there.
didn't give up
Drinks
on
a
New World. If
potion,
they do ever
waiting
give
in,
up on
block,
New World,
another
that
left
completely
mouse
changes
button
the
from
equation
Aiden. Going
for
back
me
in,
personally.
pressing
Now,
the number
will
one,
New World
then
be worth
two,
returning
then
to
three.
in
Oh my god,
October
the
for New World
follow-up with
Tournament?
the left
I think for
mouse
players
button
who already
again.
have
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe MMOs are
what's going
struggling.
on, Soul Nation, and welcome.
Because we've got this guy putting out videos that says New World Aeternum, the state of the game. Maybe New World's doing well, right, guys? Surely at least one of the MMOs in our genre is doing well.
Welcome to.
I will say that Amazon tried to sponsor me to do content for Aeternum. And like, I didn't end up actually doing it because I got sick. But like, they asked me to do some things for the game. And I said, well, wait, you want me to promote the game as an MMORPG, right? And they specifically said, no, we want you to promote the game as an RPG. And I was like, wow, that is bold. That is super bold. To try to rebrand your game this far in is insane. That would be like trying to pretend that like we're gonna steer BDO to a co-op open world. Oh my god, it's already on that way.
To another New World video. We haven't talked about New World here on the channel for quite some time, and that's honestly because the devs haven't been making content, and the content that they've been making has already kind of been played out. But that's been their whole strategy all of 2024, and that's going to lead us to ask some critical questions. Namely, can they rebuild the trust? And will New World Aeternum be worth returning to this coming October? And that's what we're going to explore in this video. If you guys like New World and MMORPG content, you're in the right spot.
I was thinking about playing New World. You know why? Because right now I feel like the burning dog in the house. This is fine because that's Black Desert right now. I've got the 3 bozo development team in Korea that can't listen to anything, watching the world burn. So we're all looking for the next game to go play. I'm hoping that I at least have some Black Desert Online content creators to go play Throne and Liberty with. Like, guys, do we all just want to go to TNL together? Like, we'll all just raid each other and take care of each other and, like, it'll be fine. Everything's going to be okay. Like,
if you feel like these videos earn your subscription, sound off in the comments, just like MJK, I'm gonna butcher the name, Korofov, and as After Hours have.
Just come to TNL and Zergus. I don't think anyone's gonna be zerging Ethereum. I think Ethereum's gonna zerg everybody else.
Have said that they've earned their sub, so welcome in, guys, to the channel. We are slowly but surely marching our way up to the 20,000 subscriber markers, so I do thank you guys so much.
Yeah, he's getting there, bro.
This is the state of the game, and while we explore the answers to those questions that I proposed, I think it's important that we spend some time in the numbers, and the numbers don't lie. They tell.
Man, guys, oh, okay, New World is not it. Holy shit, what the Here's Black Desert. Guys, we think that Black Desert is doing poorly. Okay, what's he have it sorted by? 7 days. Okay, we think that BDO is doing poorly. Holy shit. Never mind. Get back on. This is like that meme. Hold on.
Ah! What about that ship?
That was garbage! The garbage will do!
Us running to Throne and Liberty, to be honest. Like, honest to God, it's perfect. It's perfect.
A very interesting story. Now, if you've seen any of my previous content, I'm a consummate defender that it is not a number of real importance, the concurrent player base, namely because people take and confuse concurrent for total player base. But since I'm not playing New World this minute, then I wouldn't actually count on this chart, but it does tell you the effect that the announcements in June had. And if we look at that, you can see a huge huge drop in player retention.
Oh my god, dude. Holy, this is the expansion, I think, down here. 77,000. Look at
Coming off of the hills of that announcement. Now, since the expansion released, we have seen a continual decline in players. This is natural. I'm never really worried about players stepping away from the game.
Dude, this is like Americans complaining about how terrible America is, and then we look over at Ukraine and we're like, never mind.
The real sign of health in any video game is, do they return, and are new players joining in the fray? And these numbers don't reflect that, but we can still extrapolate some important information. The June announcement, it's now been long enough. You can see here almost 20% in June. That's a 20% drop, followed by an almost 30% drop in July. And over the last 30 days, it's slow.
Positive mental attitude, guys. It dropped by 30%, but that was only 2,000 players because no one's playing the game. So, really, you didn't lose all that many people because there weren't many to begin with. So, this is a win.
Slowed down.
Glass half full.
A bit because you still have people actively playing the game because you can, and they are sticking with it. Now, content is king. When it's all said and done, the general rule, will these numbers turn green?
Console?
Yes. The question is how much will they turn green? Well, time will tell. And October is the deadline. So let's talk about what's been going on in the game in and of itself.
What's wrong?
They've had the console closed beta test. Now, I did not participate in the console closed.
Really? How much money did they charge for the closed beta? Was it less than $220? Less than $330?
But you can see here they're tweeting out some different stats.
$0? What? What is this, 2015? Idiots. Missed opportunity for money.
Talking about most popular weapon is the bow, followed by the sword, and then followed by the void gauntlet. Most popular archetype, sword bearer, ranger, and occultist. And for those of you who are checking out this video and you haven't been following the New World Eternum, when you start the game, you're going to have a couple of different archetypes. The system underlying it is still the same. Once you get into the game, you can equip.
The new expansion is free if you own the old one. Holy based. It's just like BDO's free. You pay like $1 for the game and you get all of the expansions. Boom. Easy peasy. It's so free. So free.
Equip the different weapons and create your own build. But in order to streamline the console experience without having to, I put, I guess, unneeded stress on players, they're creating several different archetypes.
BDO has expansions if you're Korean,
which give you some starting advantages, but in the long run, you're still able as a player to do whatever you want. Over 682,000 quests were completed. INDRA was the deadliest enemy, and enemies killed were over 3.6 million. Now, I don't know how these
3.6 million. I have more enemies killed than that on my BDO account by myself. You mean only 3.6 million mobs? This is a rookie ass number shit, bro.
These numbers reflect with what we've seen. I saw Jay actually report on this, so let's let Jay take it over for here, and we'll come back and talk about these numbers.
So it's a little bit awkward to show, but here we're looking at New World database, and they basically leaked the play numbers that were on the beta servers. Now, if you're worried about, like, you don't actually know what I'm talking about, there is a closed beta, New World Eternum closed beta on console only, and it's running right now. If you really want to get into that, by the way, you probably can. There's still 1 billion keys everywhere, I believe. But that test is closed and you can only play it on console. I don't have a console, so I haven't played it. And there's 19 people. It looks
playing
like not many people
bro.
are playing it, to be honest. So there were a couple of things with New World database. The numbers were sort of revealed, where you can see an obvious jump when the test went live here, right? It went from 4,500 basically to 6,000. And that actually appears to be sort of where it's steadied out. Actually, the numbers appear to have gone up here, which is a little bit weird. I don't know if that's just because it's the weekend. Because actually, when you have a look on it on a day-to-day basis, the numbers went down. But then maybe it's because...
Yeah, it's no wonder they tried to sponsor. Please You'll have more people watching than we have playing the game. Please play the game.
You opened up, maybe that helped. I think basically this was live when the servers went live, but this wasn't live, so you can see this first day might not actually be a true reflection. Maybe it is, because it does say 1,500 there, so maybe it is. Also worth noting, by the way, that the server capacity is 4,000. Obviously they didn't get anywhere near that, but interesting. I wonder if that's to do with the new layering technology that they've probably been testing out.
This
But
is
the
New
point
World.
is, I don't know if you've seen this, I don't know if you've seen like Juiceloft's video. They were trying to give away keys for New World Eternum, and they simply have failed. By the way, this is my gaming PC. I only use this when I'm streaming or recording. I am subscribed. I'm just subscribed on my other channel, so, you know, on my other account. So don't judge me, you little sausages. But yeah, they've been struggling to give away keys, and I think that is reflected in the play numbers. It's not very high. Now, this is a bit of a controversial one. I think New World needs to turn this off. I don't think we should be able to see the console play numbers. A lot of other companies hide the numbers by releasing on their own launcher and stuff like that. Whilst I'm pro having the numbers, it lets us make informed decisions. The reality is, it also lets us beat them over the head with it. So I would personally say,
I think it's a little crazy that you can't even give away keys for people to play the game. And in fairness, I think it is really strange to change the direction of your game from advertising it as an MMO to just conceding and saying, never mind, it's an RPG and we're going to develop it as an RPG. That is wild. That is insane. New World is what, like 4 years old now? Something like somewhere around there. Like, that is really nuts, dude. Like that's basically what you're gonna expect if you try to do a pivot like that. Like,
disable this, but you know, I'm happy
it's
they
time
don't
to stream Overwatch. You have the wrong guy. Yeah, no.
for now, because it lets me see what they're doing. But yeah, if they're struggling,
Like, I don't play games where the corn artists for Overwatch do more work than the developers.
to get people to play New World Eternum right now in a closed beta that's free, how are they going to get people to pay $60, $70 or whatever the hell it is? That would be a major concern for me if I was Amazon Games.
So Jay shares a lot of interesting numbers from New World database, and I think this is something that we really need to break down and talk about. He asks a question right at the end of the clip, like, if they're struggling to get people to play a beta on the console, what is this going to entail this coming October? How are people going to be enticed to spend the 40, the 60, the...
I remember when BDO released on console, they just paid all the partners to play it, as far as I was aware. Vert played it for a long time. Moreland was playing it as well. Those were the two big ones that I was watching at the time when it released. But like, they just paid the partners, as far as I was aware. Maybe they didn't get paid. Oh no.
$80, $90 on whatever version that they want for this game.
Only NA streamers got paid for it. Loser. Now we all are losers.
Good news, obviously, for the PC players who have the expansion, this is just a free update. And I think that's going to be one aspect that a lot of people are going to be very curious.
Wait, they didn't pay any EU partners to play on console? That's insane. What the hell? Bro, you know what's really crazy? Calpheon Ball happens for Black Desert Online, our big release of all the big content that was like 2 years ago, right? For the year, they had it in Los Angeles for the very first time. They paid the NA partners to fly into the Calpheon Ball and paid for our flights and hotels at the Calpheon Ball. The Heidel Ball happens in France at actual Heidel, which is way more hype. And they didn't pay a dime to the EU creators to fly them in. There are far less EU creators, and it's far cheaper flights. It's not like you're flying people in from Australia, okay? Like,
about what has changed and all of that. And we'll be covering all of that here for you guys, by the way. So if you really are interested, and even if you're not planning on returning, if you want to make sure that you're up to date on all of the things that are happening, I'll be sure to be giving it my full coverage here on the channel. But here is the answer to that question, and it will be interesting to see. A service like Game Pass is going to be something that I think they probably need to consider using. Now, I would prefer if they actually just announced that it was coming to Game Pass right out the gate before the game even came out, even before Jay's video.
He means like Xbox Games Pass, right? Is it not going to be on Xbox? Like what?
came out, I wish they would have made that style of announcement.
Fuck Australians, that's not even real. That's not true. They're really good at breakdancing.
Because no matter what, once they make the announcement, because of people's lack of faith and trust in Amazon, which I feel, especially with how 2024 has been handled by the team, they've more than earned that distrust, and it's going to take a lot to get it back. Can they get it back? Well, if you think that No Man's Sky is in a good position, the answer is yes. If you think Final Fantasy XIV is in a good position, the answer is yes. It just is a higher cost level of effort when
that's good.
It's just easier to do.
I think that Final Fantasy's actually in a great position.
It right the first time. That's the lesson my dad
Final
always
Fantasy's
taught me.
doing really
do
well.
the job once, do it right, go home and enjoy your life rather than keep having to go back to that grinding wheel. But there is some real positivity here. Anyhow, I think Game Pass, PlayStation Plus, those different
God, that's what the combat looks like. Man, that's rough, guys. Boy, oh boy.
services, if New World was to kind of jump in on that aspect, New World needs players. And I also still hope that we get to see the numbers. We can break down the concurrent numbers.
Yeah, I do.
Again, concurrency does not represent the full total player base, but it is still something very interesting. And in an MMO who needs players, that is, it is a little bit of a sign of health overall. Again, I always highly value.
They need more than a sign of health. They need a big change. Maybe that, I don't know, man. I don't think that moving from an MMORPG to an RPG is it. I don't think that's gonna help you, bro. Because if you move into the RPG category, you're talking about competing with games like The Witcher. You ain't competing with The Witcher, my man. It's not happening.
Returning in new players, what is that level? How long does a player usually go on a break? I see in the comments, I have a lot of data as a content creator where I see
Path of Exile. Good luck.
People will be on a break for a year or 2 years, but then come back and have a really good time playing all the new content and then essentially stepping away.
What up, Blaine? How you
Having
doing?
an ebb and flow, I think, is a natural sign of health, and I think it's a natural thing. And that's where the team actually has more work. They have more work to do, not in the release of with the October New World Eternum release, but actually with what follows it up. And they are saying that roadmap will be shared once New World Eternum is out and about and in the wild. And that's what we'll explore here next in this video.
So he's pretty optimistic, to be honest with you.
The final thought regarding the console closed beta is some of these numbers I think are really high, and they don't necessarily represent what we've seen from Jay's video.
118 players? 18 players? Hi? We just have different perspectives, guys. Different perspectives. In fairness, if you only have 2,000 total players, 118 players is 5%. That's pretty good. You know what I mean?
It is possible that you ended up having a smaller player base testing the game, but they had a hard time setting it down. And that's the experience that generally people have when they step into this game. It really can grab you. It really does have the hooks necessary to actually become, I think, an incredible MMO. But that's also where things get a little bit strange. But over on Redbeard Flynn, he points out a couple of interesting discussion points. So let's go ahead and explore that.
This is the tone deaf communication that demonstrates a company that is so at odds with their own game.
We ran to BDO from New World. Don't get trapped in New World. Run while you can.
They can't even categorize it anymore. A survival game billed as an MMO with servers barely larger than Rust's until they expanded them a tiny bit to 2,000 players that hit a peak of almost 1 million players in 2021, has now tried to sell itself as an action RPG with co-op in 2024 to lure in console players. And their clarification of all of this didn't help at all, and it really shows that they don't know what game they have anymore, if they ever did. We understand there is some confusion today around if New World Eternum will feel like the same genre of game as the New World you're playing today. And the answer is yes. New World has never fit perfectly into any label, but the New World Eternum you will play in October will feel like the same.
It's an MMORPG. That's the label that it fits into. At all points in time, it's never been anything but an MMORPG. But that continue.
Same genre of game as the New World you are playing today, with lots of improvements, polish, and the opportunity to play with your friends who may be on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. What the hell do you mean?
We are now more confused than when you started speaking. Honestly, I gotta hand it to them. I wonder if they got their, like, answering questions. I wonder if they got that from Trump. Trump does the same thing. Like, he gets asked a question, you're like, oh, that's a good question. And then he starts talking for like a minute, and you're like, what was the question? It's insane.
The same genre it is today. That's an MMO. It's not hard to define. It is an MMO. You have it listed on Steam as an MMO. You say it is an MMO. How do you not know that the game you have been selling to players and hadn't...
Yeah, that's concerning. At least the BDO devs are like, yeah, it's an MMO. Just fuck PvP. You know what I mean?
Expansion for is in the MMO genre. Why can't you just say, yes, it's still an MMO? Why are you trying to sell it as an action RPG when that's not it?
I feel like that was less clear than asking a politician nowadays to define a woman. Like, you ever ask a major politician to define a woman in 2024? You ain't getting a straight answer, bro. Just like the New World does.
Unless, perhaps down the line, you actually do want to convert it into this later. Who freaking knows? Because that's the kind of like broken trust you're getting here with this Amazon Game Studios and what they've done with New World. Most players, whether it's setting the game on fire on Reddit, website comment sections, or Steam reviews, are all the most upset about the fumbling of communication to the point where people, including major outlets, were extremely confused as to whether New World has gone and pulled a Wayfinders and dropped the
Oh my god, dude. Why can't MMO development teams just listen to their goddamn player base? I don't understand why this is so hard. Actually, I know why it's so hard. They hate us. They hate their players. Developers hate us. They don't want to listen to us. They think they know what's best for us. They're like parents. Except they're the ones that are like alcoholic that went to go get milk and then never came back again. And we're wondering when the patch is going to happen.
Sense of being an MMO at all. Turns out that no, instead we're getting a Bless Unleashed style console release. And while it remains to be seen if this will have the same trajectory as the bajillionth release and rebrand of Bless Online, there's a greater fear long term. While it may not be the way it's going now, is this the start of a full rebrand of New World into a live service game with limited multiplayer?
I'm just going to say it. I think so. I do. I think that's what has the community shaken and players shaken. And I do think that's the direction they're headed in based on how they communicated with me. Just straight up. Again, they tried to sponsor me to play it. I didn't get around to doing it because I was sick and couldn't do it. But I asked, I was like, do you want me to advertise it as an MMORPG or as an RPG? And they were like, we want you to advertise this as an RPG. RPG. I was like, wow, okay.
Is the backtracking and clarification all about saving face?
Yeah, I don't understand how New World can make cinematics like this and the BDO devs are like, give them the Minecraft graphics. That's what they want.
And the reaction...
I want to see the pores on my character's tits in the cinema scene. You understand? That's what I want to see.
Wasn't received well to calling it an action RPG after years of calling it an MMO. Because after all, they're still calling it an action RPG on all of their websites. And they're refusing to call it an MMO in their damn clarification
cool?
I know it's just words. I
Look at that
know it's
walk.
just semantics.
Look at
but
that,
it's
bro.
pretty damn important semantics.
Now, Redbeard brings up, I think, some really excellent points. And this hits home to me personally, where when I look at and analyze just the gaming industry in its whole, I think oftentimes where players and devs are at odds, it's due to marketing. Marketing ends up being a real big stepping point, and it can be done really well, or it can just absolutely crush your hopes and dreams. And it also then, I think, is one of the key factors in a lot of player
And this is
frustration.
crushing.
But let's talk about action RPG versus MMO. I think if we're going to be honest with ourselves as MMO fans, we know that MMO has some baggage that hangs over it. The genre in and of itself has some shining stars, but it also has a lot of baggage that a lot of people tend to avoid. In fact, to show you guys this as an example, it took forever for Destiny to put the label MMO on the game. They kept referring it to as an action RPG, obviously in a shared world. Now, when New World is putting this marketing out on the action RPG element, it's to highlight one of the biggest things it does, what other MMOs don't do, and that's action combat. There are some obvious exceptions.
Wait.
To this, but when it's all said and done, if you think of Throne and Liberty,
This is what counts as action combat? You're holding left mouse button. Are we kidding? Is this a joke? He's joking. He's joking. He's joking, bro. It's not tab target, so yes, I love it. I love it. Huh. Technically, you don't ever hit the tab button, so yes, it's action combat.
if you think of just any of the games that have been launching or have been out for 15 plus years, they're pretty much tab targeted. And so New World does have, I think, that competitive advantage. And so it is, for me, as an outsider looking in at this,
Competitive advantage. What I've seen from New World's combat, it's not as good as Black Desert, obviously. It's not as good as Lost Ark. It's not as good as Throne and Liberty. It's not as... It might be a little bit better than WoW, which was made in 2004, right? For 6. But it's close, you know? Like, Elder Scrolls, still better. Yeah.
their advantage. They're playing to their strength and
04.
advertising their game to a whole new community, a whole new potential community, and not bringing in that baggage. Turns out you got MMO, but
ESO is garbage, but as we've seen today, the garbage will do. Okay, ESO is a great game, but like saying that it's action combat is what makes it a great game is laughable, right? What makes ESO a great game, from what I understand, I have not played it. What makes ESO a great game is the professions and the questing. Like the storyline apparently is just absolutely crazy good. That's what I've heard about it. The action combat is what people complain most about the game.
when they're pushing forward that action RPG, it makes sense to me. Honestly, I think it seems to be probably the smartest play when it's all said and done. But beyond the marketing alone, this really leads
New World is better than Throne and Liberty. Well, we'll see. It's going to come out here in less than a month. I'll be playing it.
me to the two questions I want this video to answer. Can they actually rebuild trust? I think
Elder Scrolls been on life support the last 8 years. Oh, it's so good. Oh, yeah. There it is. Yep. Right there. You tell me which one's on life support.
actually for new
I mean, this dude literally said it earlier. He said, oh my God, we got a lot of people playing in that closed beta test. Over 118 players tried the game. The standards are low, admittedly.
new
like
players, they're not going to have any of the baggage as PC players have had over the last several years, especially this year alone. We can say 2024 has been a complete disaster. With the right marketing and a quality launch, there will be some level of trust being built, but trust isn't going to be rebuilt in a day. That's why for the new players,
Why is this cape? This is bothering me. Why is this cape? Look at this thing clipped through that. This
coming in if the
Look at
launch
that
is smooth,
shit.
but
Look at
trust
this.
isn't
Look
going to
at
be
that
rebuilt
fucking-
in a day.
literally unplayable. Literally completely unplayable.
That's why for the new players coming in, if the launch is smooth, they're not going to have to worry about rebuilding trust with that player base. But for the existing players, that's where it's not going to be about October. It's about November, December, January, February, and 2025. Getting a full roadmap.
This is action combat. If you had a map of this dude's keys on his keyboard right now, it would literally just be his mouse with LMB held down. This is action. Oh, I'm sorry. He's holding W. True. You can technically call it actions per minute because there are technically 2 actions here. You can use the plural tense.
That is filled with
They get 3 abilities.
enjoyable content. It doesn't
Whoa! That changes everything.
mean they're going to overwhelm us. We're not going to start seeing like 30 dungeons added per patch, but we need to see
League of Legends has more abilities than this.
that, and we need to see some consistency. And I think over the course of the couple years, it will take those couple years. Now, why do I feel Amazon is willing to make that level of investment? They
3 abilities, guys. Three. I'm just action combat. Technically, it counts.
committed to this game for a 10-year plan. Now, that doesn't
He's doing
necessarily
a bad job of showing New World combat. I would imagine that it's at least reasonably engaging enough. It's not going to compare to. It's probably going to beat in most tab target systems, but it's not going to beat the other action combat in the genre, like Lost Ark, for example.
mean that they're going to have to put out a ton of content. But I think, honestly, if they were going to sit down and say,
Well, actually, who am I kidding? I say the genre. The Witcher has better action combat than this.
we're going to try to come out with a yearly expansion around October every year. If, as a content creator, people ask me, should I get into it? And, like, yeah, they're
RPG,
releasing New World
okay.
Eternum, and then next October, whatever the title of the expansion is, and then just go on from there, making that yearly check-in point for marketing spend online, which then drives players back in to check out all the new content.
Witcher's got more skills than this. I know, that's the point.
You don't have to.
Like, if you want to compete as an RPG, all right, an action RPG, that's who you're competing with. You're competing with, like Chad said, Path of Exile, The Witcher, right? Like the old Skyrim from when I was a kid. Like,
Play just one game.
and to be fair, I think that this probably is a little bit better than Skyrim in the 2000s.
And I think that's one of the
Yeah, oh yeah, Elden Ring. Hey mom, can we have Elden Ring? Yeah, no honey, we already have Elden Ring at home. Imagine being a kid at Christmas and asking for the new Elden Ring DLC, and you unwrap it and it's New World Eternum.
the signs of how things have shifted within MMOs. But the other factor to why that is we also know they're working on the Lord of the Rings MMO. So it is highly possible
God.
regarding the reception of New World Eternum that
I'm more excited for the Dune MMO. I'm just going to say it. I think the Lord of the Rings MMO is probably going to be...
they do continue to support the game so that they fulfill the promise that they made with supporting this game for 10 years and shifting that over into
Tune
kind of
with
one of
the
their
biomes,
cheaper
you shut
studios.
your mouth.
And when I say cheaper, I don't mean less quality. It means out of California and over, I forget to wherever country, but they announced that earlier this year. Amazon is all in on games, and they're continuing to put out, I think, really interesting, options, because when it's all said and done, the MMO is the most risky investment that you could make. If somebody came to me and said, Brian, do you want to invest in this new MMO? I don't know if I could.
It's called Ashes of Creation. They just started development on it. It's going to be done in the next 35 years. Your grandkids are going to have a great time with it. The stock price is going to soar. It's going to be awesome. Straight to the moon. Like, their business model is absolutely insane. See, what happens is so Steven recruited me. Okay. And then if I recruit 3 more people, my investment is worth more money. And if those 3 people recruit 3 people apiece, help.
Could do it, because the return and the risk and the amount of time and effort it takes to actually make it doesn't necessarily seem worth it. And that's why it's always been interesting to me that Amazon actually has been, and also bringing MMOs from the east to the west, outside of just their own building.
Wait,
and then
he's getting
obviously the
turboed.
Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is the real reason why New World
Wait, he's getting
Eternum
his
will
shit run.
continue, because that level of investment from a capitalized expenditure is a lower tax bracket. And it also means that they can put the work in, they can benefit their player base here, they can get real telemetry and feedback, and then they can make sure that when the Lord of the Rings MMO launches, that it is in the absolute best shape that it can be, with 10 years of experience. Maybe it'll come out before the 10-year mark, but with that experience where I as a player, you as a player, we can look and say, well, even if
Man, shoutcasting this has to be an absolute blast.
Amazon
He's holding
doesn't
left
get
mouse
Lord of
button
the
right
Rings
now.
right out
Oh
the
my
gate,
god,
they're
big
not gonna
dodge
give
on the
up
step
on it
back
because
right
they
there.
didn't give up
Drinks
on
a
New World. If
potion,
they do ever
waiting
give
in
up on
block,
New World,
another
that
left
completely
mouse
changes
button
the
from
equation
Aiden, going
for
back
me
in,
personally.
pressing
Now,
the number
will
1,
New World
then
be worth
2,
returning
then
to
3.
in
Oh my god,
October
the
for New World
follow-up with the
Tournament?
left
I think for
mouse
players
button
who already
again.
have the game, no matter what,
It's just not as entertaining, and I can't really make it as entertaining as BDO is. You know what I mean? It's like really hard.
as soon as the marketing spin kicks up, as soon as streamers and content creators are all talking about all the different changes, it's inevitable that it's so easy to update your game. There's no subscription. You've already owned it. You can go check out all the changes for yourself. And I bet if you've been away from the game for a long period of time, there's going to be something really exciting about stepping back into the game. You're going to remember all the things you really liked about it and all the things that you really hate about it, namely how they handled marketing and didn't release any content in 2024. And those will fade.
They haven't released like any content at all in 2024 yet? For the entire game? A Tournament is the only content New World's getting the entire year?
To the side, and
Jesus, bro. And we think we have it bad in BDO.
You'll go check out all the new things.
Joke's on them. We don't even know when we're getting our expansion.
You stick around though, well, time will tell. I honestly think that's where New World Eternum needs to have a roadmap, needs to deliver that content. And if they keep us guessing, and if they have another 2020, if 2025 is just like 2024, and then the game just basically is a once a year big content drop with a couple of seasons sprinkled in, well, it's going to be a nice little casual game that I like to check in from time to time and do some action RPG combat in an MMO. And that's going to be at least where I fall in
just
to
go
it.
play
So,
Lost Ark or something, you know what I mean? Play BDO.
I'm really curious to see ultimately how this is received. I see a lot of people have always talked about when this comes to console, I'll be willing to check it out. So it'll be interesting to see if people put their money.
This guy is full on face tanking this lizard looking rhino, or the chameleon right here, and the chameleon is just tanking him. Hugely engaging.
Where their mouth is,
Look at
but in
that,
the long
bro.
run, it is what it
Oh
is.
my
Now,
God.
when it's all said and done, like I said, I think marketing is the
Crazy.
biggest failure New World has ever had, and I think the team hopes.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the marketing move from MMO. Like, I think that's really what's hurting them. ultimately that and the fact that their content, it's just not there, bro. One expansion a year, and then they're not getting like the weekly patch updates and stuff like we get. Like,
hopefully is learning the lessons, but time will fortunately tell. But Redbeard actually had one final point that he made, and it was actually, as a Final Fantasy 14 player myself, I'm very...
What game is going to come out of development? Ashes of Creation or Star Citizen? No, nothing. No one. They're all losers.
Very interested to to kind of talk about it, so let's let him pop back in.
Not just players like me who want the more classic experience, but any player of any MMO. I don't think that you're going to have someone from Final Fantasy 14 that would be very happy and excited to hear their game referred to as an action RPG where if you want to, you can co-op.
When Redbeard brought up Final Fantasy 14, I thought it was really interesting because Final Fantasy 14 can be played with optional co-op, and that's where we've seen kind of this curse of the MMO, especially with players who have fondness for how they used to run, but the practical realities of running and maintaining a profitable MMO means that you have to bring in way more people. And in a world of
the truth is that Ashes of Creation is the best monetized MMO in the history of the genre. You don't even have to run live servers. Just don't release the game. It's really simple. Every time someone criticizes you, just say it's still in development. We're working hard on it. It'll get there. You know what I mean? Just charge them another few $100s a piece to play it. You can keep the servers open for a couple months, then close those puppies up, job well done, and you're good for another 3 years. To be honest, like...
of Fortnite and Minecraft that have captured so much of the next generation's youth, where they still play those games decades later. In fact, that's what the numbers within the video game industry reflect, is just how much people are playing older games. Well, I think essentially you got to come up with new and interesting ways to entice people to at least be given your game a chance. And unfortunately, as an MMO player who thinks that
and you can openly play Star Citizen, that's true,
MMO should mean massive
for the low price of $6,000
multiplayer online, but we've seen it move to what I call MSO, massively single player online, or optional MMO. Those are the
massively single player online. You could have used that to describe Black Desert for the first 5 years.
things that have kind of come in play because it's able to attract a bigger audience that is at least going to maybe spend some money on the store. Now, all said and done, we'll be following this up with coverage and also additional thoughts as we barrel towards that release. There's still Throne of Liberty that we're going to be playing and talking about in the month of September. The August is kind of...
Didn't it get delayed? Wait. Yep. Yep. Absolutely brutal.
The month of WoW. There's other games that I'm looking forward to playing. Obviously, if you guys haven't seen Notice for the Wicked, it's incredible. I've been really loving that game. Visions of Mana is coming out this month, and also Wukong. Apparently, I'm getting that with my new PC. So hopefully, my new PC, being that it's Intel, I have really concerns. But I'm hearing some BIOS updates have gone out. Wish me luck. It hasn't shipped yet, but we're still waiting to replace the old PC here in the office. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to my members here on the channel. Thank you guys to those who've hit that like button.
Gosh, dude, I'm telling you, why are all of these MMOs just in a state of free fall? Wait, I know. It's because none of their development teams want to communicate clearly or listen to feedback at all. It's literally insane, dude. This is just where we're at now, man. It's actually just nuts.